Well, exactly what you said going to happen happened. And what having a book does is it just brings you to another level that people respond to you differently because you have a book. And that makes all the difference in the world. Let me give you an example. Friday afternoon, I met with a nonprofit, and he asked me what I'd been up to. Now, this is a nonprofit, and they are huge. Do you want me to tell this? So last year, the guy made 645,000. That's on their 990. So, just saying. And so I handed him my book, and he looked at it, and so the title of my book is How to Turn Order Takers into Rainmakers. And he just started laughing, and he's rubbing the front of the book. And he said, I love this. He said, I'm always telling our people they're order takers. They're not order makers. So I am going to have some fun with this book. He said, this is awesome. He said, I will read this weekend, and I will give you feedback on Tuesday. Okay. So Saturday morning, so I give him the book. Saturday morning at about 9 o'clock, I get a text from him, and it's a picture of my book opened and a picture of a coffee mug. And so he's reading the book, obviously. And then he sends me an email. You want me to read the email?
Yeah, please.
Okay, hold on. Let me get to it. Sorry, I wasn't ready for all this. So he says, Charlie, I enjoyed your book. Thank you. Great points in there. We score a 58. So I have a business development checkup. He said, we score a 58 on Embrace at first glance. The book also has great insight into how you think and what you know. I had no idea this is who you are. And I've known this guy for probably 10 years. Very cool, exclamation mark. Love it. Thanks again. I'm thinking about how to use you. So about 10 minutes later, he sends his assistant an email on a Saturday morning when they're on a 3-day weekend over Labor Day. And he says, Stephanie, please order 20 books on Rainmakers from Charlie. We need to get them for this week. Thanks. And so I took your podcast, black shiny box that was real nice, and I covered up your address label with a picture, with a picture of a bunch of umbrellas, and put his name on them and delivered them to the front desk. And then his assistant took them to him and gave them to him. So I don't know how they're going to use the 20 books, but the fact that I'm in his mind and he's doing this on a weekend and like that is great. Another example quick that I had was an organization out of Florida, and I'm in Wichita, Kansas. An organization out of Florida said, we want to fly you and your wife down here because we want it. So when she talked to me, she said, yeah, we want to talk to you about this. Well, that's probably as far as it would have gone without a book. And I said, well, I'll send you my book. And then she reached back out and she said, this is great. We want to fly you and your wife down here, spend some time with our people so that we can figure out how to use you going forward with the 500 to 600 companies that we work with every year. A CFO of a company that did 110 billion last year that I've known for a few years. I saw him at a social event the other night, and he said, where can I get your book? I want it. And I said, let me go out to my car and get it for you. So I went out there and I gave him 2 copies, and he's sitting there, he's smiling, he's reading the title, and he said, I've got a guy right now that needs this. And so it does honestly take you to another level that people just don't know exists until they're there. So,
and it opens up all kinds of opportunities, and that's what I love to hear. And I'm super excited for all that's going to come from it. And you're really just at the beginning. I mean, you haven't had the book out for more than a couple of months at this stage, right?
Right. So I've been in this business for a long time, in helping turn order takers into rainmakers, working with those professional services people that would rather look at spreadsheets than look at strangers. And my biggest thing was, and I'd reached out to Scout Books because I thought, well, I don't have enough content to fill a book, and was looking at it like that. And so when you and I had the first conversation and I started telling you some of these stories about things that I've had happen, you went, oh, you've got plenty of content. you're going to have to leave out some of the content because you don't want to write these books too big. The one thing that's really been surprising to me is I don't know what size font is in the book, but I've had two guys over 50, and that's my target audience, is people who are in positions. It was a bank president and it was a real estate developer that both looked at me and said, "Oh, good, this book's in big enough font that I can read it." And I thought, what a little bitty deal. Something else you told me is, so I have a brother that has a PhD in English, and I have a brother that taught English forever. And so, of course, we write big, long paragraphs with our complete thoughts throughout the, so we complete our thought and move on to the next. And you said, yeah, don't do that. Because that's really, you said, and I quote, man, you said, that's really a long haul to get somebody to read a half a page at a time. You got to chunk those down just to keep people looking down the page. And that's not something that they taught us in 8th grade or high school or college English. And just those things just really make it readable. And being a short book, being a book that's small enough to get somebody to read it is important. And you talk about that on the first leg of the flight. You get on the airplane, you pull the book out. I mean, that's why the guy read that book Saturday morning. He's drinking his coffee. He read the whole thing in an hour and a half, and he's done. So, just those things that you tell us, and I tell people that I work with you because you're a guy that helps guys like me write books like that. You specifically have worked with professional services organizations, and that's what drew me to you, is because I thought this guy gets who I am and what I do. So I'm not educating him about what I do. I found the help to help me get the fine point on this pencil so that when I did this, I hit the target. I didn't miss it. And so stop talking, stop considering, stop thinking about it. And what's the worst that can happen? What is the absolute worst that can happen? Well, that's probably not going to happen. So just go ahead and trust the process. I talk about this in the book. Marty Stewart's a great bluegrass player that used to play with Johnny Cash. And Marty Stewart said that when somebody shows up in your life, be brave enough to let them in. When you take on one of these big projects, it's really important to have somebody lead you through that process, because there's so many ways this could get off the track and get in. You probably ran into people that start books and don't finish them. They get bogged down. They don't know where to go. What you've got is a template where you just lay it down and say, here's what you're doing here. Here's what you're doing here. Here's what you're doing here. It's 15,500 words. It's this many chapters. It's this many pages. Here's what it looks like. Here's the introduction. Here's a note from Charlie Moon. Here's this chapter 1 through 5, do this, 5 through 10, do that. Wrap it up this way. You can do this, you can do that. The most important thing, here's the least important thing to consider. Here's the most important thing to consider, because people do buy books by the cover. So just that guidance of having been there before is helpful.
That's
so fantastic. Stop thinking and start doing. That's my advice.